everybody. Welcome to my talk today, Paper Cuts Stop the Bleed. Now, a little bit about me. My name is Kristine Sihto. My husband and I are based in Brisbane, and we together run a small cybersecurity consultancy called Tinker Inc. You will have seen our logo out the front. We've got the accessibility stand there. Now, I wear a few hats. I am primarily an editor, specialising in cybersecurity, and sometimes I fill technical writing roles. I often work under the title of document specialist. I mostly work with cybersecurity consultancies, stepping in and reviewing their client offerings and databases to ensure that content is written to the appropriate level. We can't work without documentation. It's the primary means of business communication in the 21st century, especially now that so many people are working from home. And when I say documentation, I'm not just talking about words on a page or even on a screen. Documentation includes really anything that's auditable, like video feed, sound recordings, photographs. Now, today I just want to talk to you about your documentation. We all have it, we all need it, and some of us need quite a bit more of it. But a lot of companies are bleeding information through the documentation that they don't even realise they're leaking internal information from. And I intend to show you some of those places and give you some strategies that you can use to reduce the loss of sensitive information. Information leakage is a serious issue, both externally and internally. Externally, through SOWs, reporting, training materials, emails, screenshots. It could be just the name of a client appearing in a document where it's supposed to be going to a different client. It could be wrong data. It could be that you're telling others the names or habits of your employees, your internal processes, and internally you might be releasing private employee information through surprise birthday announcements or internal newsletter employee spotlights. So let's just today look at the heavy hitters, the stuff that you can potentially get reputational damage from. I'm going to jump right in on my first subject by telling you about my first day. It doesn't matter where. This is a general first day, and I can happily tell you this stuff because this has happened at almost every workplace I've ever edited for. On my first day, I am presented with a document, usually something that's going to be presented to a client later on in the week, and I'm asked, tell us what you think. So I open up this pretty gleaming fresh report, all shiny and ready to go to the client, and I get about 2 pages in, and I say just generally to the entire open plan office, because I don't really know who's who yet, what's Jack's dry cleaning, and what does it have to do with Annie's cupcake factory? And unerringly, I will hear a response. It will generally falls into one of 3 categories: a loud oops, followed by an uncomfortable laugh, a soft I thought I fixed that, or a very sharp, sudden expletive. Jack's dry cleaning, in this case, is the name of the original client that this report went to, who is not the client that it's supposed to be going to, because this company is doing the exact same thing that every other company does on Earth. They decided to template the original without sanitizing it first. And that's bad, because the document I'm holding has been, or should have been, through the hands of at least 2 other people before I ever laid hands on it. It's expensive to write completely bespoke documentation every time. So collectively, we reuse content. This is great. It saves a lot of time and the cost of those staffing hours, so it makes sense to reuse content, and I thoroughly encourage it wherever I go. I believe you should never write twice what you only need to write once. But here's the rub, you can't just copy-paste over the old stuff. Now, all you little startups, I'm looking at you, spend the unbillable hours sanitizing your templates. Why? Because you miss things. I miss things. It doesn't matter how good you are, how good your QA process is. If you are not working from a sanitized template, you can't be certain that you're not going to corrupt your data with that of the previous report. This raises the question of how to sanitize your document thoroughly. Have a process in between creating your original document and your second document where one employee, preferably not the employee who wrote the initial document because word blindness is a thing, manually replaces all instances of non-transferable information with dummy text. Use a signifier at the start and end of each of these sections, whether it's square brackets, percentage marks, ampersands, it doesn't matter. It's just so that the next person can easily recognize these sections. And repeatable information that's going to come up often throughout the document, such as the client name, can be automated by using a metadata field for this purpose. Now, while we are talking about Word, I want to mention screenshots. Word has a fantastic cropping mechanism for images. People are inherently lazy, which is a good thing. It's the foundation of all labour saving. But sometimes it's going to wind you up in hot water. If you take a screenshot and just put the entire thing into Word, you can crop it so that it looks exactly like you want it to look on the page. Great! Unfortunately, when you crop in Word, it doesn't actually crop the image. It just hides it. So this is the same image as before, and you can see hiding parts of something is not the same as getting rid of them. So if that screenshot has got other things in the background, there is a strong chance that you're exposing those other things. Maybe emails, maybe sensitive processes happening in the background for other clients. Maybe your employee has been looking at something that's not very sanitary online. Do you actually know what you are showing in the screenshot that you are providing to other people? And in this particular screenshot, oh look, I play in Minecraft. When inserting images into a document, the image itself should only be showing the information that you intend to show to the audience. This means cropping the image and saving it as a cropped image before inserting it into your document. This has a knock-on benefit of also reducing the size of the document after you've saved it. After all, you don't have to keep all of those lovely hidden pixels, you just have to discard them. This is hard to enforce, but with clear procedures that include image quality expectations, most employees will do it the way that they are expected to. And of course, you should have a quality assurance process you go through before your documents are released, which will hopefully catch any strays that have happened along the way. And the last part of the process is to always PDF your documents before releasing to the outside world, so that if anything slips through, you're going to catch that particular thing by turning the entire thing into a single image. Now let's take a look at the section of your document you've probably looked at but not paid much attention to. This is the information page. that you will find on every document. It's hidden away in that first tab. And you see all of this lovely information here. It talks about the last person that edited it, which I've blanked out because that's actual names there. You see how long it's been edited for, so that's 1,777 minutes. It was big. What other information is in here? There are a number of other fields available, and all of these reveal various different aspects of the metadata of your document. So what is metadata? It is quite literally data about data. And what you can do with this particular data is look at who owned it previously, look at who edited it or created it, the names of internal managers, the names of other employees. Let me tell you a story that is based on a real event. I've changed the names to protect the guilty, the innocent, and all other involved parties. Once upon a time, I was working with a document, which is very unusual for me, I must say. I was working with a document and I looked at the information page. And this particular document that I was looking at was the basis for hundreds of documents throughout this company. And opening up the information page, I found that the owner of the document was a rival company. I immediately had a quandary on my hands. It was obviously IP theft. And the document was so prevalent throughout the organisation that it could not be easily replaced. So I did what like any other person with no authority does. I escalated that problem. But the story doesn't end there. The name of the original author was an expletive. It wasn't an accidental expletive. It was quite obviously designed to shock and be insulting to a person with a very specific first name. So obviously we needed to get rid of this document because this was going out to clients, and clients do see that stuff. There is an incredibly high incidence of IP theft that occurs. In a 2018 report, it was identified that 72% of CEOs admitted to taking IP with them from previous employers. Look, anyone in here that's thinking of doing this, it may save time, but it's a false economy. Because if your documents are going out to clients, those clients aren't stupid. They look at these sorts of things. Those clients and customers may have legitimate concerns if they see that your IP looks strangely identical to someone else's. This is an extreme concern for reputational damage, especially when you factor in the risk of litigation from a competitor organisation. So, this example here has been pulled from a license template I recently had the dubious pleasure of working on. Instructions in the template told you how to access this section, which is in the advanced properties of the metadata. It told you how to alter this section, populate the data automatically through the rest of the template, and then it told you how to delete the instructions page. Now, who here looks at this and thinks that these should all be employee names? It's not supposed to, but I can guarantee that someone will look at entries like this and fill it in with employee names, not considering how hard it is to go back in and change them when an employee shifts roles, even though this should be linking to the name of the role, not the individual. And with this populated with employee names, what do we have? We have a fantastic list of employee email addresses that can be spoofed in a spear phishing attack. So couldn't they just see these names in the document anyway? In the particular template that I'm talking about, only one of these fields was actually used, and that was the organisation name. The rest of the fields are just window dressing. Now I want to talk about version control. Does your version control look like this? I've seen version control that goes on for literal pages, with every passing of the document displayed for the rest of the world. This can be an issue with older documents where you have patterns emerge. So if you look at this very, very carefully, you can see that partway along, Simone R., who was the supervisor right up at the top, has been suddenly had their role taken over by Annette B. This indicates to me that a manager has left the company, which means that you've got a lovely phishing inroad that gives a phisher an air of legitimacy. Oh, hey, I was dealing with Simone R. directly. You say she's left the organisation. Well, I've got this bill that I was going to give to her. Do you need to show all of this information to the world? Some people working with classified documents might, because you need to see every set of eyes that's been on this document. But for most instances, this isn't data that you need to display. Certainly isn't data that you need to display to anybody that's outside your organisation. And if nobody's filling in the reason for the change, which, let's face it, nobody does, there's no reason to capture all of these movements. Now, so far I've talked about the classical ideas of a document, but so what? Maybe you're a tech company that provides software. Maybe you're providing a way for other people to document their stuff. Now, story time again. I got an ultrasound a while back. For about 5 minutes, the ultrasound technician left me alone in the room to change. The screen on the machine was live, and I was able to see patient details, names, dates of birth, the procedure being performed, at what time, and the diagnosis. It was a big list. I didn't need to touch the machine. I didn't even need to crane my neck from the position where I was sitting on the examination table. It was all fabulously readable, even for a short-sighted person like me. That's a data breach. Now, when I queried the technician, I learned that the machine was new. It hadn't been set up with an automatic screen sleep setting. They didn't even know if it was capable of one. They didn't know if they were able to lock the screen, or if so, how. The takeaway here is hide data. Hide your data. Hide other people's data. It doesn't have to be a fancy solution. Just setting a screen to go to sleep after a short period of no interaction is your first point of security. This goes for paper documents too. Manila folders and title pages on reports don't just hold everything together. Doesn't just make them look pretty. They stop casual observers from gathering data without touching anything. The principle of least privilege applies to information as well as to processes. Don't show it to someone who doesn't need to know it. The same goes for information collection, by the way. If you don't need it, don't collect it, because if you don't have it in the first place, it can't become exposed. So let's just recap what I've spoken about. This talk has only just scratched the surface, but it's giving you a starting point. So, sanitize your documents before using them as templates. Use somebody else to sanitize your documents, not the person that wrote it. Be careful what you are showing in your screenshots. Make sure that when you actually do the capture, that it's only capturing what you need. Give your clients PDFs rather than Word documents. Word documents are easily manipulated. PDFs are a little bit harder. Try not to give too much information away in your metadata. Sometimes this stuff is automatically populated in there, and if so, you can't really help that. But if you're in charge of all of this stuff, work out what sort of stuff you actually need in there rather than just putting everything in. Reduce unnecessary information in your version control. A version control, often with only one name, and that's the name that's releasing the document, is generally okay. If you need a little bit more, just give the minimum of data. Hide information from people that don't need to see it. This one should be a no-brainer. You're all in cybersecurity, you should already know this one. And enforce all of this through documented processes and extra sets of eyes. The more sets of eyes you can have on a document and the more enabled they are to actually query something, the better. So that's everything from me.
Everyone, please give Kristine a warm round of applause. There are a number of practical tips in there, so I hope everyone's taken them away and goes and has a look at their work documents, because I know ours are full of that stuff, so thank you very much. The other thing I want to mention before Kristine jumps off stage, most of you should have noticed she's in a blue shirt. Mm-hmm. She is a volunteer. She does help with CrikeyCon as well as a number of other community events that are run both here in Brisbane as well as around the country. So can I please get another round of applause for Kristine for all the work she does?
Thank you. I just wanted to show everybody, these are the bears that I made for this event to give to speakers. They are our wonderful cyber droppies with articulated arms. And
So if you see Kristine or you see a speaker during the day, they'll have one and you can have a good look. Thanks again so much, Kristine.